Hey everyone, welcome to our deep dive into the world of marketing. We're going to be cracking open Philip Kotler's marketing management. And we're going to try to give you the ultimate cheat sheet on everything marketing. Think of it like a marketing management 101, but way more fun than actually having to read a textbook. We're going to be diving into the nitty-gritty of, how do you define marketing? How do you build a brand that people actually care about? And even how do companies like Nike or Disney, how do they create those killer marketing plans that just dominate their industries? And to help us break this all down, we have a marketing whiz with us, someone who can, connect all the dots and really help us understand why any of this matters to you in the real world.
Well, I'm glad to be here. Kotler's work, it's really a gold mine of knowledge. And we're going to try to dig out those golden nuggets that are really going to be most relevant to you as a listener.
Perfect. So first things first. What exactly is marketing in this day and age? I mean, we've all heard the word, but Kotler seems to think it's about more than just, slapping a catchy slogan on a billboard.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Kotler, he really emphasizes this shift from just focusing on the product itself to a broader understanding of creating value for the customer. It's about solving a problem or fulfilling a need for them and doing it in a way that really makes sense in their world,
That makes sense. Do you have any examples of that? I mean, it still feels kind of abstract to me.
Sure. Think of it like this. Remember that example Kotler gives about Union Pacific Railroad? They went from we run a railroad to we move people and goods. It's a subtle change in wording, but it reflects a huge shift in how they see their purpose, in the market. They're not just about trains. They're about providing a service that connects people and businesses.
Oh, I see. So it's about focusing on what the customer actually gets out of it, not just what the company's selling.
Exactly. And what's even more interesting is how all these new realities, like technology globalization. They're forcing companies to adapt their marketing strategies.
Now that you mention it, there's a ton of stuff happening in the world right now that's probably impacting how companies market their stuff. What exactly are these forces that Kotler talks about?
Yeah, so he points to four major ones: technology globalization, the physical environment, and social responsibility. And these forces are really reshaping how companies think about reaching their customers.
Can you break those down a bit?
Sure. Well, technology, that's the most obvious one. The internet, social media, smartphones, they've completely changed the way we communicate, the way we consume information. And companies have to keep up with these changes if they want to stay relevant.
Right. Makes sense. So what about globalization? It feels like everything is so interconnected these days.
Yeah, globalization, it means that companies can reach customers all over the world now. But it also means they face more competition. They need to adapt their marketing messages to different cultures and languages. Think of how Netflix, tailors its content library and its marketing campaigns to different regions.
Yeah, it's almost like they have to be marketing chameleons.
Yeah.
Changing their approach for each market.
Exactly. Now, the third force, the physical environment, is something we're all becoming increasingly aware of. Companies need to consider the environmental impact of their products, their marketing practices. Consumers are looking for sustainable options. And companies that ignore this trend are going to face some serious backlash.
So it's not just about selling a product anymore. It's also about how that product impacts the world around us.
Right. And finally, social responsibility. It's about more than just being eco-friendly. It's about companies taking a stand on social issues, being ethical in their practices, giving back to the community. Consumers, especially younger generations, are more likely to support brands that align with their values.
So a company can't just say they're doing good. They actually have to walk the walk.
Exactly. Consumers are savvy. They can spot inauthenticity a mile away.
It's fascinating how all these forces are shaping the marketing landscape. So once a company understands these new realities, how do they go about actually creating a marketing strategy?
Well, Kotler introduces this handy framework called GSTICK, which stands for Goal Strategy, Tactics, Implementation, and Control. It's basically a roadmap for developing a successful marketing plan.
GSTICK. I like it. So it's like a checklist for building a winning marketing plan.
Yeah, more like a blueprint. You start by setting a clear goal. What do you want to achieve with your marketing efforts? Then you figure out your strategy, the broad approach you'll take to achieve that goal.
Okay, so let's say my goal is to sell 1 million widgets. What would my strategy be?
Well, that's where you'd get into the specifics. You'd analyze your target market, your competition, your strengths and weaknesses, and then you develop a strategy that plays to your strengths and capitalizes on opportunities in the market.
Also, it's kind of like a game of chess.
Yeah.
Figuring out your best moves based on the board and your opponent.
Exactly. Once you have a clear strategy, then you break it down into tactics, the specific actions you'll take. That could include advertising, social media campaigns, content marketing events, and so on.
Okay, so strategy is the big picture, and tactics are the individual brushstrokes that make up the painting.
Perfect analogy. Now, the I in GSTIC stands for implementation. This is where you actually put your plan into action. Assigning roles, setting timelines, allocating resources. And finally, C stands for control. You need to track your progress, measure your results, and make adjustments along the way.
So it's not enough to just have a great plan on paper. You have to actually execute it and constantly tweak it based on what's working and what's not.
Exactly. The marketing landscape is dynamic, and you need to be flexible and adaptable to succeed.
Now, before we move on to the next chapter, one thing that really stood out to me was you mentioned the importance of understanding your target market. Can you tell us more about that?
Of course. That's where understanding consumer behavior comes in. It's about digging deep into the psychology of your potential customers. What motivates them? What influences their decisions? What makes them tick?
So it's not just about demographics like age and income. It's about understanding their values, their aspirations, their fears.
Precisely. Kotler talks about the various factors that influence consumer behavior, like cultural influences, social factors, personal characteristics, and psychological factors.
So it's like building a psychological profile of your ideal customer.
You got it. Once you understand your target market inside and out, then you can tailor your marketing messages to resonate with them on a deeper level.
That makes sense. Now, speaking of tailoring messages, how do companies figure out who their ideal customer even finds?
Well, that's where the concept of market segmentation comes in. It's about dividing a market into distinct groups of buyers who have different needs, characteristics, or behaviors, and who might require separate marketing strategies or mixes.
So instead of trying to appeal to everyone, companies should focus on specific groups of people who are most likely to be interested in their products or services.
Exactly. It's about finding your niche and becoming the go-to solution for a specific segment of the market.
Okay, so how do companies actually segment the market? What are some of the criteria they use?
Well, there are several ways to segment a market. It depends on your industry and your target audience. Kotler talks about geographic segmentation, demographic segmentation, psychographic segmentation, and behavioral segmentation.
Okay, so geographic segmentation is about targeting people based on their location.
Right. It could be as broad as a country or as specific as a neighborhood. For example, a company selling winter coats might focus their marketing efforts in colder regions.
Makes sense. What about demographic segmentation?
Demographic segmentation is about dividing the market based on factors like age, gender, income, education level, occupation, and so on. For example, a luxury car brand might target their marketing towards high-income individuals.
So it's about understanding the basic characteristics of your target market.
Exactly. Now, psychographic segmentation goes a bit deeper. It's about understanding people's lifestyles, their personalities, their values, their interests, their opinions. For example, a brand selling organic food might target their marketing towards people who are environmentally conscious and health conscious.
So it's about appealing to people's values and aspirations rather than just their basic demographics.
Precisely. And finally, behavioral segmentation is about understanding how people interact with your brand or product. This could include factors like purchase frequency, brand loyalty, and the benefits they're seeking.
So it's about understanding how people actually use and engage with your product or service.
You got it. By analyzing these behavioral patterns, you can tailor your marketing messages to address specific needs and motivations.
This is all starting to make a lot of sense. Now, I know a lot of companies obsess over being number one in their market. How do they achieve that? What are some of the strategies that Kotler talks about for driving growth in competitive markets?
Well, Kotler outlines a variety of strategies companies can use to gain market share and stay ahead of the competition. One approach is to focus on product leadership, constantly innovating and developing new and improved products that outperform the competition.
So it's about being the cutting edge of your industry.
Exactly. Think of companies like Apple, Tesla, or Google. They're always pushing the boundaries of what's possible and setting the bar for their competitors.
That's a tough act to follow. Are there any other strategies that might be a bit more accessible for smaller companies?
Absolutely. Another approach is customer intimacy, building strong relationships with your customers, and providing exceptional service that keeps them coming back for more.
So it's about becoming the go-to solution for your target market, even if you're not necessarily the biggest or the most innovative player.
Exactly. Think of companies like Zappos or Nordstrom. They've built their reputations on providing amazing customer service and going above and beyond to meet their customers' needs.
Yeah, I love those companies. They always seem to go the extra mile. Are there any other strategies companies use to compete effectively?
Sure. Another approach is operational excellence, focusing on efficiency, streamlining processes, and delivering products or services at competitive prices.
So it's about being the most reliable and cost-effective option in the market.
Exactly. Companies like Walmart and Amazon have mastered this approach, leveraging their scale and logistics to offer low prices and convenient shopping experiences.
It's fascinating how different companies kind of find their own paths to success. Now, one thing I've always wondered about is how companies build those incredibly strong brands that people seem to be obsessed with. Is there some kind of secret formula?
Well, there's no magic bullet.
No.
But Kotler does outline some key principles for building strong brands. First and foremost, it's about creating a clear brand positioning, defining what your brand stands for, what makes it unique, and what value it offers to customers.
So it's like figuring out your brand's personality and what makes it stand out from the crowd.
Exactly. Once you have a clear brand positioning, you need to communicate it consistently across all your marketing channels, from your website and social media to your advertising and packaging.
So it's about creating a cohesive brand experience so that customers get the same message no matter where they encounter your brand.
Precisely. And another key ingredient is brand authenticity, being true to your brand's values and delivering on your promises.
So you can't just say you're something. You have to actually be it.
Exactly. Consumers can spot a fake a mile away.
Okay, before we wrap up this section, I want to touch on something that's particularly relevant to me, designing and managing products. I'm always fascinated by how companies come up with new product ideas and how they keep their offerings fresh and exciting. What are some of the key insights that Kotler offers on this front?
Well, Kotler emphasizes the importance of understanding the product life cycle, the stages a product goes through from its introduction to its eventual decline. By understanding these stages, companies can make strategic decisions about product development, pricing, and marketing.
So it's like a roadmap for managing a product's journey from birth to retirement.
Exactly. He also talks about the different levels of a product, the core product, the actual product, and the augmented product.
Okay, can you break those down a bit?
Sure. The core product is the basic benefit or need that the product addresses. For example, a smartphone's core product is communication. The actual product is the physical manifestation of the core product, including its features, design, and packaging.
So the actual product is the thing you can hold in your hand.
Exactly. And finally, the augmented product includes all the additional services and benefits that enhance the product experience.
Things like warranties, customer support, and loyalty programs.
You got it. By understanding these different levels, companies can create products that truly meet their customers' needs and expectations.
This is all so insightful. Now, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's take a quick pause here and come back to delve into the fascinating world of services and how they differ from tangible products. See you in a bit.
Welcome back. Ready to jump into the world of services?
Definitely. I'm curious how managing a service like a hotel stay or a financial consultation, how's that different from dealing with physical products?
Yeah, you had a key point there. Services, they have some interesting characteristics that make them different from tangible goods. Kotler points out that they're intangible, perishable, and they often involve the customer in the process.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Break it down for me. What does intangible really mean in this context?
Intangible basically means you can't physically touch or see a service before you buy it. It's more of an experience rather than a physical object.
Ah, so unlike a new pair of shoes, you can't really try on a service beforehand.
Exactly. Think about booking a vacation. You rely on pictures, reviews, descriptions to get an idea of what the experience will be like. But you can't actually experience it until you're there.
That's so true. And what did you mean by perishable?
Perishable means a service can't be stored or saved for later. Once the service is performed, it's gone.
Okay, I get it. A haircut is a good example. You can't really save a haircut for another day. So how do companies deal with this challenge of selling something that's both intangible and perishable?
That's where building trust and managing expectations becomes super important. Companies need to provide tangible cues that signal quality and reassure customers that they're making a good decision.
So it's like creating a sense of tangibility even though the service itself is intangible.
Exactly. Think about a hotel stay. The hotel itself is tangible, but the experience of staying there is intangible.
Oh, right. So they create a sense of luxury and comfort through tangible things, like plush bedding, elegant decor, and attentive service.
You got it. They're essentially using tangible cues to create an overall impression of quality and value.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, you mentioned that services often involve the customer in the process. What did you mean by that?
Well, with services, the customer is often an active participant in creating the experience. It's not just something that's done to owe them. They're a part of it.
Can you give me an example? This is starting to blow my mind a little.
Sure. Think about going to a restaurant. The food is part of the experience, of course, but the service, the ambiance, and even your own mood, these all play a role in shaping your overall impression.
So it's like a two-way street, a collaboration between the service provider and the customer.
Exactly. And that's why managing those interactions is so important. Companies need to train their employees to be responsive, empathetic, and attentive to the customer's needs.
So they're not just delivering a service, they're orchestrating an experience.
Exactly. And Kotler highlights how technology is increasingly playing a role in shaping these service experiences.
Oh yeah, tech is everywhere these days. How's that changing things?
Well, for one thing, technology is making it easier for companies to personalize service experiences. Think of how Netflix recommends movies based on your viewing history, or how Amazon suggests products you might like based on your past purchases.
It's like having a personal shopper or concierge at your fingertips.
Right. Technology is also enabling companies to offer self-service options, which can be more convenient for customers.
Like checking in for a flight online.
Yeah.
Or ordering groceries through an app.
Exactly. And of course, social media and online reviews are playing a huge role in how people choose and evaluate services these days.
So companies need to be super proactive about managing their online reputation and responding to customer feedback, both positive and negative.
Absolutely. It's all about building trust and transparency in the digital age.
Now, switching gears a bit, let's talk about pricing. I imagine pricing a service can be trickier than pricing a physical product. What are some of the unique challenges there?
You're right.
They need to make the intangible value tangible in some way.
Precisely. And another challenge is that consumers often have a harder time understanding the true cost of a service.
Because there are often hidden costs involved.
Sometimes, but it's more about the fact that the value of a service is often realized over time, whereas the cost is usually upfront.
Oh, like with a gym membership.
Right.
Pay a monthly fee, but the real value comes from consistently using the gym and getting healthier.
Exactly. So companies need to find ways to demonstrate the long-term value of their services and make the pricing structure transparent and easy to understand.
And what about sales promotions? Do those work the same way for services as they do for products?
Sales promotions can be effective for services, but they need to be carefully considered. You don't want to devalue your services or create a perception that quality is being compromised.
So offering discounts can be tricky.
It can be, but there are other ways to use promotions to attract new customers and reward loyal ones.
Like offering a free trial or a bonus service.
Exactly. Or partnering with other businesses to create package deals that provide added value.
It's about finding creative ways to incentivize customers without undermining the perceived value of your services.
Precisely. Now, before we wrap up this section on services, I want to touch on a topic that's becoming increasingly important in today's digital landscape: managing marketing communications.
With all the different channels and platforms out there, it feels like a jungle sometimes. How do companies cut through the noise and get their message heard?
Well, Kotler emphasizes the importance of developing an integrated marketing communications strategy. Basically, a cohesive approach that aligns all your marketing efforts across different channels.
So it's not just about having a Facebook page and a Twitter account. It's about making sure they're all working together to tell a consistent brand story.
Exactly. It's about creating a seamless experience for the customer, regardless of how they interact with your brand.
Okay, so how do companies go about building this integrated strategy?
Well, it starts with understanding your target audience and where they spend their time. Then you need to choose the right channels to reach them and tailor your message to resonate with their needs and interests.
So if you're trying to reach millennials, you might focus on social media and influencer marketing.
Exactly. And you'd want to create content that's visually engaging and speaks to their values and aspirations.
What about traditional marketing channels like TV and print advertising? Are those still relevant?
They can be. It depends on your target audience and your budget. Traditional channels can be effective for reaching a mass audience, but they can also be more expensive than digital channels.
So it's about finding the right mix of channels that will reach your target market effectively and efficiently.
Exactly. And don't forget about the importance of measuring your results. With digital marketing, it's easier than ever to track your campaigns and see what's working and what's not.
So you can constantly refine your strategy and optimize your ROI.
Precisely. Marketing communications is an ongoing process of testing, measuring, and adapting.
This is all so helpful. I feel like I'm starting to see the big picture of marketing, how all the pieces fit together. Now, before we wrap up this deep dive, I'd love to get your final thoughts on what we've learned and what key takeaways our listeners should keep in mind.
Absolutely. But first, let's take a quick break to refresh our marketing minds, and then we'll come back with a powerful wrap-up.
Okay, we're back. Ready for the grand finale of our marketing deep dive.
I am ready to wrap things up and give our listeners some really actionable insights.
Perfect. So we covered 11T, defining marketing, for the modern world, understanding consumer behavior, crafting winning strategies, building strong brands, managing products and services, pricing effectively, and mastering marketing communications. It's a lot to take in.
Yeah, it is. But it's amazing how it all comes together. Like a puzzle where every piece is essential to the overall picture. So let's zoom out for a sec. What are the big takeaways? What are the key principles our listeners can actually use in their own lives or businesses? I think one of the most important takeaways is this idea of a customer-centric approach. In today's world, it's just not enough to simply have a great product or service. You need to really understand your customers, their needs, their aspirations, even their pain points.
So putting yourself in the customer's shoes, really seeing the world from their perspective.
Exactly. And going beyond simply making a sale, it's about building relationships, fostering loyalty, and creating experiences that delight and surprise your customers.
Making them feel like more than just a transaction, like they're part of something bigger.
Absolutely. And building on that, it's crucial to remember that marketing isn't a one-size-fits-all approach. It's about segmenting your audience, tailoring your messages, and recognizing that what works for one group might not work for another.
So being a marketing chameleon, adapting your approach to each unique market.
You got it. We saw how Levi's adjusted their product lines to cater to different segments, and how Chase Sapphire appealed to millennials by focusing on experiences and rewards instead of just, material possessions.
Really understanding that the market's constantly changing. You got to be flexible to stay ahead of the curve.
Precisely. And speaking of staying ahead of the curve, let's not forget the power of brand building. Creating a unique identity that stands out from the competition and connects with customers on an emotional level.
Right. We saw how Nike built an empire associating themselves with victory and aspiration, how Harley-Davidson fostered a sense of community, and how Dove challenged those conventional beauty standards and sparked a global conversation.
Exactly. It's about crafting a brand story that's authentic, compelling, and truly resonates with your target audience.
And being consistent with your message.
Yeah.
And delivering on that brand promise.
Absolutely. Now, last but certainly not least, let's not forget the importance of being data-driven. Marketing isn't just about creativity and gut feeling. It's also about using data to track your progress, measure your results, and make informed decisions.
So embracing the power of analytics and using those insights to really optimize our marketing efforts.
Exactly. Taking the guesswork out of marketing and turning it into a science.
This has been so insightful. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the world of marketing management. We hope you found it as valuable as we did.
It's been a pleasure sharing these insights with you.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those marketing minds engaged.